First contact. The observation deck of Orbital Station Unity hung suspended between worlds. Through its panoramic windows, Earth was a blue jewel against the void, while the unfamiliar vessels of the Visurian delegation glimmered in the distance like strange metallic insects. Lieutenant Commander Ilara Chen stood with her hands clasped behind her back, trying to maintain the composure expected of the station's chief Sinolinguist. Today marked humanity's formal introduction to the galactic community, and every detail mattered. "Remember," Admiral Whitmore whispered beside her, "our entire future could hinge on this meeting. No mistakes." Ilara nodded, though she didn't need the reminder. She'd spent 3 years studying the limited transmissions they'd received, building a rudimentary understanding of the Visurian language. Their syntax was challenging, their concepts sometimes incomprehensible, but she was as prepared as anyone could be. The airlock doors parted with a pneumatic hiss. The delegation that entered wasn't what Ilara had expected. Based on transmissions, she'd anticipated insectoid beings, but the 3 figures that glided into the chamber were almost feline in their grace, with elongated limbs and skin that shimmered like mother-of-pearl under the station's lights. Their eyes, 3 per face, arranged in a triangle, were liquid obsidian, reflecting the stars beyond the windows. The tallest of them stepped forward. Her movements were fluid, almost hypnotic, and Ilara felt a strange resonance when those black eyes fixed on her. "I bring greetings from the Concordance of Worlds," the translator device at the alien's neck produced in stilted English. "I am designated communications specialist and diplomat." The alien made a series of musical clicks and chimes, presumably her name, which the device didn't translate. Protocol dictated that Ilara should respond with her own title and name, then welcome the delegation. But something about the alien's untranslated sounds captivated her. Without thinking, she attempted to reproduce them. "These Yora Nasventurim loci," Ilara said, her voice lifting in question. The effect was immediate and electric. The alien froze, all 3 eyes widening. The 2 beings behind her shifted uneasily, hands moving to devices at their belts. Admiral Whitmore tensed beside Ilara, sensing the sudden change in atmosphere. For several heartbeats, no one moved. Then the alien, Thesiora, took a step forward, her pearl-like skin flushing with subtle waves of blue light. "You remembered my name." The translator's mechanical voice couldn't capture the emotion that Ilara saw in those obsidian eyes, but it was unmistakably shock. "I have a good ear for languages," Ilara replied cautiously, unsure what cultural taboo she might have violated. "I apologize if I've given offense." "Not offense," Thesiora said, her head tilting at an angle that reminded Ilara of a curious cat. "Impossibility. Humans do not, cannot." She seemed to struggle for words, then tried again. "No species outside our own has ever correctly remembered a Visurian name upon first hearing. It is unprecedented." Admiral Whitmore cleared his throat, clearly trying to salvage what he perceived as a diplomatic misstep. "Lieutenant Commander Chen is our foremost language specialist. Perhaps her extraordinary abilities—" "It is more than ability," Thesiora interrupted, her gaze never leaving Ilara. "It is connection. It is knowing." She stepped closer still, until Ilara could see tiny flecks of silver swimming in those black eyes. "No one has ever truly known my name, not outside my kind. And even among my kind, names are not meant to be remembered." The statement hung in the air, puzzling and profound. Ilara felt like she'd stumbled upon something significant without understanding its implications. "I'd be interested to learn more about Visurian naming customs," she offered, trying to steer the conversation back to cultural exchange. "Yes," Thesiora replied, though something in her voice suggested hesitation. "But not here. Not now." She turned to address Admiral Whitmore. "We will proceed with scheduled diplomatic discussions. The human ability to remember names is unexpected. It must be studied." The remainder of that first meeting was cordial but tense. The other Visurians kept their distance from Ilara, occasionally casting what she interpreted as wary glances in her direction. They discussed trade possibilities, technological exchange protocols, and the boundaries of human exploration rights within concordant space, all standard first contact topics. But underneath it all, Ilara sensed currents of unease. When the delegation departed, Admiral Whitmore took Ilara aside. "What the hell happened back there, Lieutenant Commander? You went off script." I repeated her name, sir. I didn't realize it would cause such a reaction. Whitmore frowned. "Fix this. Whatever cultural sensitivity we've stumbled into, I need you to smooth it over. The Visurians control access to 3 major trade routes we need. We can't afford to antagonize them over a linguistic misunderstanding." "Yes, sir," Ilara replied, though privately she wondered if this was simply a misunderstanding. The look in Thesiora's eyes had suggested something far more profound. Later that evening, as Ilara reviewed her notes in her quarters, her terminal chimed with an incoming message. It was text only, written in imperfect English. "Lieutenant Commander Ilara Chen, I must speak with you privately. What you did today, it changes many things. Meet me in the Auxiliary Botanical Garden. Level 3, Section 8, 1 Earth hour from now. Come alone. This communication is not sanctioned by my delegation. Thesiora nas venturum loci." Ilara stared at the message, particularly at the signature. The alien had used her full name, the name Ilara had somehow correctly pronounced, despite never having heard it before today. She should report this to security. Unsanctioned meetings with alien diplomats violated at least 6 protocols. Instead, she deleted the message and changed into civilian clothes. The Botanical Garden was one of Unity Station's few concessions to aesthetics over function. Plants from Earth grew alongside carefully vetted specimens from other worlds, creating a small oasis of life amidst the sterile corridors. When Ilara arrived, the garden was deserted except for a slender figure standing among a cluster of bioluminescent flowers from Proxima Centauri. Their glow cast Thesiora's pearlescent skin in shades of blue and violet. "You came," the alien said, her translator device producing softer tones than during the formal meeting. "I'm curious," Ilara admitted, "and concerned. I seem to have caused some disturbance without understanding why." Thesiora made a gesture that might have been the equivalent of a smile. "You have done what no human, no non-Visurian, should be capable of doing. You heard my name once, and you remembered it. You pronounced it correctly. This should not be possible. Is remembering names taboo in your culture?" "Not taboo. Sacred." Thesiora moved closer, studying Ilara with all 3 eyes. "For us, names are transient, temporary. We give them, and we forget them. It is our way. Names are not meant to be carried through time." Ilara frowned. "I don't understand. How do you identify each other if you forget names?" "We use designations, titles, roles. I am diplomat, or communication specialist to most. My actual name, the one you spoke, is known only to me and to those present at my naming day. And even they forget, as they should. Why should they forget?" Thesiora's skin rippled with colors, and Ilara wondered if this was how Visurians expressed emotion. "Because memory is power. To remember a true name is to know a soul. It creates connection, vulnerability." She paused, seeming to search for words. "In our history, those who remembered too many names gained dangerous influence. They could speak to the essence of others. So we evolved. We developed the capacity to forget names after they are spoken." Ilara felt a chill despite the garden's controlled temperature. "Are you saying your species deliberately forgets as a cultural practice?" "As a biological adaptation," Thesiora corrected. "Our brains are wired to release the memory of names. It protects us from manipulation, from control." She reached out, hesitating just short of touching Ilara's temple. "But your brain, your human brain remembered my name perfectly. This has never happened in our recorded history of contact with other species. Is that dangerous? Ilara asked. I don't know, Thijora admitted. To remember a Visurian's name is to hold a piece of their essence, their true self. Her third eye, centered above the other two, seemed to focus more intensely on Ilara. You now carry a part of me, Lieutenant Commander Chen, and I do not know what that means for either of us. Before Ilara could respond, Thijora stiffened, her head turning toward the garden entrance. Others approach. My absence has been noted. She moved with startling speed toward a secondary exit. We will speak again, but until then, speak my name to no one. Promise me. I promise, Ilara said. Just before disappearing through the door, Thijora paused. One more thing. When you spoke my name, I felt it, like a chord struck within me. Her voice softened. No one has ever truly known me before this day. Then she was gone, leaving Ilara alone with the glowing flowers and 1,000 new questions. She touched her temples, wondering what it meant to carry someone else's name, someone else's essence, in her mind. And she wondered why. When she thought of Thijora's name, she felt that same resonant chord vibrating in her own chest. The Memory Protocol. 3 days after her clandestine meeting with Thijora, Ilara found herself assigned as official liaison to the Visurian delegation. Admiral Whitmore had been impressed by how quickly the aliens had requested her specifically, unaware of the real reason behind their interest. They seemed to have forgiven whatever cultural misstep occurred during first contact, he said, skimming through the formal request. In fact, they're quite insistent on working with you. Capitalize on this, Lieutenant Commander. The Joint Chiefs are eager for any advantage in these negotiations. Ilara nodded, keeping her expression neutral despite the flutter of anxiety in her stomach. She hadn't seen Thijora since their garden meeting, though the aliens' words about names and memory had haunted her thoughts. She'd spent hours in the station's database, searching for any reference to Visurian naming customs in the limited information they had, but found nothing substantial. The Visurian delegation had been given a dedicated section of Unity Station, modified to suit their atmospheric and gravitational preferences. As Ilara approached their quarters, she was met by one of the other delegates, not Thijora, but a slightly shorter Visurian with skin that leaned more toward green undertones. Lieutenant Commander Chen, the alien greeted her, the translator producing a flat, emotionless rendition of its musical language. I am Deputy Cultural Attaché. You will accompany me. Ilara followed the Visurian through a series of rooms that had been transformed with strange, crystalline structures and subtle lighting adjustments. The air carried unfamiliar scents, something like cinnamon and ozone mixed together. Eventually, they entered what appeared to be a conference room, where Thijora waited alone. The Deputy Cultural Attaché departed without another word, closing the door behind them. Ilara Chen, Thijora said, and for the first time, Ilara noticed that the alien wasn't using her translator device. Instead, she spoke in carefully practiced English. Thank you for coming. You requested me specifically, Ilara replied. Your English has improved dramatically. I have been studying. Your language is less complex than ours, but has its own elegance. Thijora gestured to a seat across from her. Please, we have much to discuss. As Ilara sat, she noticed a crystalline device on the table between them, similar to a holographic projector, but with an organic quality to its design. Is that safe to use? She asked. All technology exchanges are supposed to go through official channels. This is not technology in your sense. It is memory. Thijora touched the crystal, and it illuminated from within, projecting a three-dimensional image of what appeared to be a Visurian city, impossibly tall spires that seemed to flow rather than stand, with beams moving between them in graceful arcs. Our homeworld, Thijora explained, as it was 10,000 years ago, before the Memory Protocol. The Memory Protocol. The deliberate forgetting of names I spoke of. Thijora's 3 eyes focused on the projection as it shifted, showing scenes of chaos, those same beautiful spires crumbling, Visurians fighting one another. In our ancient past, we were different. We remembered everything. Names, histories, secrets. This led to power imbalances. Those who knew many names could influence many minds, creating bonds of control. The projection changed again, showing a Visurian with eyes that glowed brighter than the others, surrounded by beings that seemed almost entranced. The name speakers, Thijura continued. They rose to power by collecting names, by remembering what should be forgotten. They nearly destroyed our civilization through mind-binding, a practice where knowing someone's true name gave you influence over their thoughts, their feelings. She touched the crystal again, and the image faded. The memory protocol was our solution. We evolved, both culturally and biologically, to forget names after they are spoken. To release these powerful connections, it saved us. Ilara absorbed this information with growing concern, and now have remembered your name. Does that mean I could influence you in some way? I don't know, Thijura admitted. This has never happened with an off-worlder before. In our history, only Visurians have been able to hold the memory of names against our natural forgetting. Her skin rippled with subtle waves of color. But there is more you should understand. My delegation does not know I told you this. They believe you simply have an unusual linguistic ability. They do not realize that when you speak my name, I feel it. Feel it how? Like a vibration, a resonance. Thijura's third eye narrowed slightly. It creates a bond. Not control, not as the ancient name speakers could exert, but connection. Awareness. I can sense your presence on the station, even when we are separated by many walls. Ilara sat back, startled. I don't know what to do with that information. Nor do I, Thijura admitted, but it has created a complication. The other delegates sense that something is different about me. They suspect I am becoming too attached to your species, too interested in humans. She leaned forward, and they are not wrong. Your ability to remember names fascinates me. It suggests that humans possess something we Visurians have deliberately evolved away from. The capacity for deep personal connection through consistent identity. Is that a good thing or a bad thing from your perspective? Both, perhaps. Thijura's voice softened. There is freedom in being forgotten, in having one's identity constantly shifting and renewed. But there is also something powerful in being truly known, in having someone carry your name with them through time. Ilara considered this, trying to understand a perspective so alien to human experience. For humans, being remembered was fundamental. It was why they built monuments, wrote books, created art. The idea of a species that valued being forgotten struck her as profoundly sad. What happens now? She asked. Should I try to forget your name? Would that be better? No, Thijura said quickly, then seemed surprised by her own vehemence. I mean, this connection may prove valuable. The fact that humans can remember what Visurians deliberately forget. It could have diplomatic implications. Positive ones, I hope. That remains to be seen. Thijura activated the crystal again, this time displaying what appeared to be scientific data. Brain scans, perhaps, though in a format Ilara couldn't interpret. I have been conducting research, comparing what we know of human neurology to our own. The difference is significant. Where we have neural pathways dedicated to releasing name memories, you have structures that preserve them. It is as if our species evolved in opposite directions on this specific trait. And what does that mean for our future relations? Thijura hesitated. I am not yet certain. But I believe it could be the basis for a unique alliance. Your remembering, combined with our forgetting. There could be balance there. Complementary strengths. She deactivated the crystal abruptly. But first, we must navigate a more immediate concern. The delegation leader, High Coordinator Zev Terran, has requested a private audience with you tomorrow. Ilara felt a chill. Does he know about our meetings? About what's happening between us? He suspects something. Visurians are sensitive to emotional shifts, and my interest in you has not gone unnoticed. Thesura's skin darkened slightly, which Ilara had come to recognize as their equivalent of embarrassment. Be careful with him. Answer his questions truthfully, but do not volunteer information about our private discussions. And above all, do not speak my name in his presence. What would happen if I did? It would confirm his suspicions that something inappropriate has occurred between us, that I had allowed you to retain knowledge that should be forgotten. Thesura's three eyes met Ilara's gaze with intensity. In our culture, such a breach would be grounds for my immediate recall. I would be removed from the delegation and subjected to realignment. Realignment. The word carried ominous undertones, a process to correct deviant thought patterns, to ensure compliance with the memory protocol. Thesura's voice had dropped to nearly a whisper. It is not a gentle procedure. Ilara felt a surge of protectiveness that surprised her with its intensity. I won't let that happen. You may not have a choice. Thesura stood, signaling the end of their meeting. We walk a dangerous path, Ilara Chen. The connection between us, this name bond, it violates the core principles of my society. Yet I find myself unwilling to break it. Her third eye, the one centered on her forehead, seemed to look through Ilara rather than at her. Perhaps this is what the ancient texts warned of, the seduction of being truly known by another. As Ilara left the Visurian quarters, she found herself repeating Thesura's name in her mind, feeling its syllables like a secret key she'd been entrusted with. She didn't yet understand the full implications of this strange connection, but one thing was becoming clear. Remembering an alien's name might be the most radical act a human could perform in this new galactic community. And with that remembrance came responsibility, a weight she carried with each step back through Unity Station's gleaming corridors, where the stars beyond the viewports seemed suddenly full of unfathomable complexity. Diplomatic crisis. The High Coordinator's chambers were bathed in a pale violet light that made Ilara's skin look bruised. Zev Terran, or at least that's how Thesura had referred to him. Ilara knew better than to use the name directly, sat across from her on what appeared to be a crystalline growth rather than a chair. His skin was paler than Thesura's, almost translucent, with age spots that glimmered like embedded diamonds. Lieutenant Commander Chen, he began, his translator device producing a deeper, more authoritative voice than Thesura's. Your assignment to our delegation has produced unusual results. I hope those results have been positive, High Coordinator. Ilara replied carefully, remembering Thesura's warning. That remains to be determined. His three eyes blinked in sequence rather than simultaneously, a gesture Ilara had not seen before. You have spent considerable time with our communications specialist, more than protocol dictates. I believed immersion was the best approach to improving cross-species communication, Ilara said, which wasn't entirely untrue. Your language is complex, and I'm eager to master it. Indeed. The High Coordinator's middle eye narrowed slightly. Yet I find it curious that your focus has been so specific. One member of our delegation, rather than the collective. He leaned forward. Tell me, Lieutenant Commander, what do you know of Visurian naming customs? The directness of the question caught Ilara off guard, but she maintained her composure. Very little, High Coordinator. I understand names hold special significance in your culture, but the details haven't been shared with us yet. And yet you pronounced a full Visurian name correctly upon first hearing it. A remarkable feat. His tone had shifted, becoming colder. Almost as remarkable as your continued private meetings with the communications specialist, meetings not logged in official records. Ilara felt a surge of alarm. They'd been monitored. Of course they had been. This was a diplomatic mission with countless security protocols. Her own people were probably tracking her movements just as closely as the Visurians were. I apologize if I violated any protocols, she said, choosing her words with extreme care. My intent was purely to facilitate better understanding between our species. Understanding, the High Coordinator repeated, the word somehow ominous in his mechanical voice. An admirable goal. But understanding requires honesty, does it not? He activated a device similar to the one Thesiora had shown her, but instead of projecting images, it emitted a series of sounds. Ilara's blood ran cold as she recognized her own voice. Thesiora Nasventorum Loci. The recording was from their first meeting. Names are sacred to Vigurians. The High Coordinator continued after the playback ended. They are given, then forgotten, a cycle of renewal that maintains the harmony of our collective. Yet you, a human, speak this name with perfect recall. All three of his eyes fixed on her with unnerving intensity. And more concerning still, the owner of this name has not reported this violation. Instead, she has sought your company repeatedly. I meant no disrespect, Ilara said, her mind racing to find a diplomatic way through this confrontation. If I've committed a cultural offense, what you have committed, the High Coordinator interrupted, is an act of profound intimacy in our culture. To hold another's name in memory is to claim a piece of their essence. It creates bonds that supersede collective harmony. Such connections are strictly regulated among our own kind, and absolutely forbidden with outside species. The implications hit Ilara like a physical blow. No wonder Thesiora had been so shocked, so secretive. What Ilara had done casually, remembering a name, was apparently equivalent to some deep, possibly inappropriate connection, in Vigurian terms. I assure you, High Coordinator, I had no knowledge of these customs. If I had, ignorance does not negate impact. He cut in. The damage is done. The communications specialist has been compromised. She will be recalled immediately for realignment. He stood, towering over Ilara. And you, Lieutenant Commander Chen, have created a diplomatic incident that threatens the very foundation of our negotiations with humanity. Ilara rose as well, refusing to be physically intimidated. With all due respect, High Coordinator, punishing either of us for an honest cultural misunderstanding seems counterproductive to the alliance both our species seek. This is not punishment. It is correction. Restoration of proper balance. His skin rippled with colors Ilara hadn't seen before, dark reds and blacks that suggested anger or perhaps fear. The communications specialist has already been confined to quarters pending transport back to our vessel. Thesiora is being detained. The name slipped out before Ilara could stop herself. The effect was immediate. The High Coordinator recoiled as if struck, his three eyes widening in what appeared to be genuine shock. The colors racing across his skin intensified. You speak it again, he hissed, the translator barely able to capture the emotional charge in his voice. Casually, repeatedly, as if it were nothing sacred. He moved toward a communication panel. This confirms my worst suspicions. The connection has progressed too far. Security protocols must be elevated immediately. Alarms began to sound throughout the Vigurian section, not the familiar klaxons of Unity Station, but a strange, pulsing tone that seemed to vibrate through Ilara's bones. Guards appeared at the chamber's entrance, their skin mottled with aggressive patterns. You will be escorted back to the human section, the High Coordinator declared. All diplomatic exchanges are suspended pending review. The infected member of our delegation will be removed and treated. Infected? Ilara repeated, anger rising in her. Being remembered isn't an infection, High Coordinator. It's connection. Understanding. The very thing we're all supposedly here to build. You understand nothing of our ways, he replied dismissively. The memory protocol exists for our protection, both from ourselves and from outside influence. Your species' inability to forget is precisely why the Concordance has hesitated to grant you full membership rights. He gestured to the guards. Remove her. As the guards approached, Ilara made a split-second decision. I invoke diplomatic immunity under Section 7 of the Unity Station Charter, she declared loudly. And I formally request asylum for Thesiora Nasventorum Loci under the same charter's protection clauses for persecuted individuals. The guards hesitated, looking to the High Coordinator for direction. He had gone completely still, his skin fading to an ashen gray. "You cannot claim protection for one of our own," he said finally. "Our internal matters are not subject to your human regulations." "Unity Station operates under joint authority," Ilara countered, silently thanking the administrative law courses that had been part of her diplomatic training. "Any being on this station has the right to request protection if they believe they're in danger. Realignment against someone's will certainly qualifies." For a moment, no one moved. Then the High Coordinator made a gesture Ilara couldn't interpret, and the guards stepped back. "This matter will be elevated to the highest levels of the Concordance," he said, his translator rendering his voice ice-cold. "Your interference in our cultural practices will not be forgotten. Lieutenant Commander Chen." He turned away. "You have until the next cycle to depart our section. After that, the consequences will be severe." Ilara was escorted to the boundary between the Vizurian and human sections of the station, her mind whirling with implications. She potentially sabotaged Earth's first major alien alliance. She definitely overstepped her authority by invoking asylum protocols. And most urgently, she had no idea if her actions had helped or further endangered Thesura. The moment she crossed back into human territory, she activated her comm unit. Chen to Admiral Whitmore. "Sir, we have an emergency situation with the Vizurian delegation." The Admiral's voice came back immediately, tense and clipped. "My office. Now." Half the station is lighting up with security alerts from the Vizurian section. 15 minutes later, Ilara stood at attention before Whitmore's desk, having delivered a rapid summary of events, omitting only the personal nature of her connection with Thesura. "Let me get this straight," the Admiral said, pinching the bridge of his nose. "You accidentally violated some alien taboo about names, then deliberately invoked asylum protocols for one of their diplomats without authorization." "Yes, sir." The situation escalated rapidly. "I believe the communication specialist was in imminent danger." "Based on what evidence?" Ilara hesitated. The High Coordinator described a process called realignment that sounded more like punishment than treatment. "Given what I've learned about the importance they place on forgetting names, I believe this might involve some form of forced memory alteration." Whitmore leaned back in his chair, studying her. "Lieutenant Commander, in the 2 years you've served under my command, you've never struck me as someone who makes rash decisions, so I'm inclined to believe there's more to this situation than you're telling me." Before Ilara could respond, the station's AI announced an incoming priority communication from Earth Command. When the Admiral accepted it, the stern face of Fleet Admiral Cheng appeared on the main display. "Admiral Whitmore," Cheng began without preamble, "we've received a formal diplomatic protest from the Vizurian High Council. They're demanding the immediate return of one of their diplomats and the removal of Lieutenant Commander Ilara Chen from all further negotiations." Whitmore shot Ilara a look that promised a thorough dressing down later. "Admiral Cheng, we're still assessing the situation. There appears to have been a significant cultural misunderstanding." "It's beyond misunderstanding," Cheng interrupted. "The Vizurians are threatening to withdraw from the Concordance Treaty negotiations entirely. They've already recalled their ships from joint patrol duties near Proxima Centauri." Her expression hardened. "Whatever happened up there, fix it. Earth cannot afford to lose this alliance." "Yes, Admiral," Whitmore replied. "We'll resolve the situation immediately." When the communication ended, he turned to Ilara. "You heard the Admiral. Fix this. Now." "Sir, with respect, returning Thesura to the Vizurian delegation would be sentencing her to mental reconfiguration against her will. That violates every principle off." "I don't care about principles right now, Lieutenant Commander. I care about preventing an interstellar diplomatic disaster." Whitmore's voice was steel. "You created this problem. Your connection to this alien has compromised your judgment." "My connection is precisely why I understand what's at stake," Ilara insisted. "The Vizurians' practice of deliberately forgetting names. It's not just cultural, sir. It's control." It's a way of preventing deep connections between individuals, and I think there's more to it than they're telling us. Whitmore's expression didn't soften, but something in his eyes suggested curiosity. Explain. Ilara took a deep breath. The High Coordinator mentioned that humanity's inability to forget is why the Concordance has hesitated to grant us full membership rights. Don't you find that strange? Why would remembering names be considered a liability in interstellar diplomacy? Go on. I think there's something about human memory, specifically our ability to maintain consistent identities through naming, that threatens the Visurians, maybe threatens the entire power structure of the Concordance. Ilara leaned forward. Sir, I need to speak with Thesiora before any decisions are made. She knows something crucial about this situation. Whitmore was silent for a long moment, weighing his options. Finally, he activated his terminal. Security, this is Admiral Whitmore. Locate the Visurian communications specialist who requested asylum and bring her to my office under protective escort. Authorization Whitmore Alpha 7-3. He looked back at Ilara. You've got 1 hour to get answers. After that, I'm making the call on whether to send her back. The fate of Earth's place in the galactic community may depend on it. As they waited, Ilara felt a strange sensation, a vibration, almost like a distant echo of her own heartbeat. She realized with startling clarity that she could sense Thesiora approaching before the door even opened. Their connection was growing stronger, just as the alien had warned it might. And in that moment, Ilara understood that remembering a name wasn't just a linguistic feat or a cultural taboo. It was power, the kind of power that could reshape the future of human-alien relations forever. For better or worse, she now carried that power with every syllable of Thesiora's name that she held in her memory. The human advantage. When Thesiora entered Admiral Whitmore's office under escort, Ilara was struck by the change in her appearance. The alien's pearlescent skin had dulled to a flat gray, and her movements lacked their usual fluid grace. But most alarming were her eyes, particularly the third eye centered on her forehead, which seemed clouded, unfocused. Thesiora, Ilara said, stepping forward instinctively. At the sound of her name, the alien's head snapped up, all three eyes suddenly alert. Color rippled across her skin, brief flashes of blue and violet. Ilara Chen, she responded, her